need to step away from that shelf right now.
I'm just trying to check out.
Don't play dumb with
problem?
me. You know exactly what this is
Lower
about.
your voice. We're in a
That's
store.
the only reason you're still standing there.
Are you threatening me?
No!
On a quiet Friday afternoon in April 2023, inside the wide fluorescent aisles of Maple Grove Market in Dayton, Oregon, one man's misplaced confidence collided head-on with a reality he never imagined facing. What began as an ordinary grocery run unraveled into a public disaster that destroyed a life in under 12 minutes. Derek Holloway walked into the store that day carrying himself like someone who believed rules bent around him. He had shopped there for years, same parking spot, same cashier, same sense that the place belonged to him more than anyone else. And when he noticed a man he decided didn't fit, something inside him snapped. The man hadn't spoken, hadn't bumped into anyone, hadn't drawn attention to himself at all. He was simply shopping. Derek didn't care. He followed him from aisle to aisle, letting irritation ferment into something uglier. By the time they reached the front of the store, Derek had already convinced himself he was right, that he was doing everyone else a favor. The man in question stood near checkout lane 4, calmly unloading groceries onto the belt. Mid-40s, dark jacket, plain jeans, worn sneakers, nothing flashy, nothing that signaled power or importance. His name was Marcus Cole. Marcus moved with quiet precision: tomatoes, rice, a carton of milk. Chicken thighs wrapped in brown paper. He checked items off an invisible list, the kind you keep in your head when you've done this routine 1,000 times. His teenage son was visiting that evening. He planned to cook. That was it. No agenda. No confrontation. Behind him, the store buzzed with end-of-week traffic. Parents with kids, couples debating brands, a senior clerk laughing with a regular, normal life humming along. Derek abandoned his own cart near the magazine rack and marched toward lane 4. He didn't hesitate. He stepped close, too close, invading Marcus's space, his voice cutting through the ambient noise like broken glass. He told Marcus to move, said people like him didn't belong there, accused him of stealing time, space, oxygen. Heads turned. The cashier, Lena, froze with a scanned item halfway down the belt. Marcus didn't respond. That silence only enraged Derek further. He raised his voice, peppered with slurs he thought he could say without consequence. He demanded the manager, demanded removal, claimed the store was going downhill. Still, Marcus said nothing. He simply turned his head and looked at Derek, not with fear, not with anger, but with a steady, unreadable focus that should have been a warning. A few shoppers pulled out their phones. Others whispered. One woman near the candy display muttered, "This is unnecessary." Derek mistook attention for support. He puffed up, louder now, gesturing toward the exit, insisting someone do something. He announced he would call the police himself if management refused. What Derek didn't realize, what no one in that store realized yet, was that the man he was attacking had spent 22 years enforcing the very laws Derek thought would protect him. And in less than 10 minutes, that assumption would cost Derek everything. The store manager arrived less than a minute later. His name was Evan Price, 32 years old, 6 months into the role, still learning how quickly a normal shift could spiral into something unmanageable. He had been restocking paper towels near customer service when the raised voices cut through the store. By the time he reached checkout lane 4, the air already felt charged. Evan positioned himself carefully between Derek Holloway and Marcus Cole, keeping his shoulders angled, palms visible, the way corporate training videos recommended. "Sir," Evan said to Derek, voice even but firm, "I need you to lower your voice. There's no issue here. Everyone is allowed to shop." Derek scoffed loudly. "Oh, don't give me that," he snapped. "I've been coming to this store for over 10 years. I know when something's wrong." He jabbed a finger in Marcus's direction. "And that is what's wrong." Marcus didn't react. He had stepped slightly to the side now, allowing the belt to sit idle. His groceries, vegetables, packaged meat, dry goods waited untouched. His posture hadn't changed. No defensive stance, no aggressive shift, just quiet awareness. Evan tried again. "We can ring him up at another register. Or I can help you at customer service. Let's just move forward." Derek shook his head hard. "No, I want this handled properly." The word properly carried weight. A woman in her early 60s spoke up from behind a cart near the greeting cards. "He hasn't done anything," she said. "I was right next to him the whole time." A younger man closer to self-checkout added, "You're way out of line, man." Derek turned on them instantly. "You don't see what I see," he shouted. This is how it starts, people pretending nothing's wrong until it's too late. Phones were out now, not subtly, openly. Several shoppers stepped back to widen their angles, instinctively sensing something was unfolding that would matter later. Derek pulled his phone from his pocket, his hands shaking, not with fear, but with excitement. "I'll call the police myself," he announced, "since nobody here has the backbone to do it." He dialed 911 and spoke loudly enough for half the store to hear. "There's a suspicious individual at Maple Grove Market," he said. "He's refusing to leave, acting confrontational. I feel unsafe." he emphasized suspicious with deliberate clarity. When the call ended, Derek crossed his arms and exhaled through his nose, satisfied. "They're coming," he said, scanning the crowd like a man awaiting validation. "Now we'll see who's right." Evan looked exhausted. Lena, the cashier, stared at the scanner like it might save her. Marcus finally moved, slowly, intentionally. He reached into his jacket, causing a brief ripple of tension through the onlookers. He removed his phone and made a call of his own. It lasted 18 seconds. He stated his name, requested a specific unit, gave the store address, nothing more. When he ended the call, Derek laughed. "Calling your friends," he mocked. "You're only making this worse for yourself." Marcus didn't answer him. He turned to Lena instead. "I'm sorry this landed on you," he said softly. "None of this is your responsibility." Lena nodded, eyes wide, grateful and overwhelmed. Marcus then addressed Evan. "You tried to do the right thing," he said. "That matters." Something flickered across Evan's face, confusion, curiosity, maybe instinct. Outside, sirens began to rise, not one, several. Derek straightened, stepping closer to the automatic doors, planting himself where he would be seen first. Marcus stayed by lane 4, still, watching, because he knew exactly how this was about to end. The first patrol car pulled into the parking lot less than 4 minutes later. Its lights washed over the glass storefront in slow pulses of red and blue, drawing every eye in the building toward the entrance. Conversations died instantly. The hum of refrigerators and the faint beep of scanners were the only sounds left. Derek felt a surge of triumph. He adjusted his jacket, lifted his chin, and stepped closer to the automatic doors as if he were about to receive honored guests. In his mind, the narrative was already complete. He was the concerned citizen. The man near lane 4 was the problem. Authority was finally arriving to confirm it. Outside, a second patrol car slid in behind the first, then a third. That detail gave a few people pause. The doors opened. 4 officers entered the store in a tight formation, scanning the scene quickly and efficiently. They didn't rush, but they didn't hesitate either. This wasn't confusion, it was assessment. The lead officer was a woman in her early 40s with steel gray eyes and a posture that communicated command without effort. 2 men followed her, along with another female officer bringing up the rear. Derek stepped forward immediately. "Officers," he said, raising his hand. "Thank God you're here. That man," he pointed sharply toward Marcus, "has been causing a disturbance, acting suspicious, refusing to leave." I felt threatened. He spoke fast, layering details, exaggerations stacking on top of each other. He claimed Marcus had intimidated staff, claimed shoppers were afraid, claimed management had failed to act. The lead officer raised a hand. "Sir, step back," she said calmly. "We'll take it from here." Derek hesitated just a fraction of a second, then complied, still talking as he moved aside. The officers didn't respond. They walked past him, straight toward checkout lane 4. The crowd parted instinctively. Phones lifted higher. Lena gripped the edge of her counter so tightly her knuckles went white. Evan stood frozen near customer service, heart pounding. Marcus waited, hands relaxed, shoulders loose, eyes steady. The officers stopped approximately 1 meter in front of him. For a brief, impossible moment, no one spoke. Then the lead officer raised her hand. It wasn't a defensive gesture. It was a salute, sharp, precise, absolute. The other 3 officers followed in perfect unison. The sound of fabric shifting echoed unnaturally loud in the silent store. "Director Cole," the lead officer said clearly. "Do you require assistance?" The words didn't register at first, then they landed, hard. Derek's face drained of color so quickly it looked like someone had pulled a plug. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. The confidence he'd carried moments earlier collapsed inward, leaving only confusion and disbelief. Around the store, gasps rippled outward. The woman who had defended Marcus earlier brought both hands to her mouth. The younger man near self-checkout muttered, "No way," under his breath. Marcus nodded once. "Yes," he said quietly, "I do." The authority in his voice was unmistakable now, controlled, practiced, final. He spoke in clipped, professional terms: unprovoked verbal assault, discriminatory language, false emergency call, multiple witnesses, video evidence. The lead officer listened without interruption, her jaw tightening slightly as she glanced toward Derek. Marcus finished with one sentence: "I want a full report and I want him taken into custody." Derek staggered backward. "No, wait, there's been a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I didn't know who he was. I was just trying to." The officers were already moving. Handcuffs came out. The click echoed like a gunshot. Derek's knees nearly gave out. And in that moment, standing under fluorescent lights with dozens of cameras pointed at him, Derek Holloway understood something far too late. He hadn't called the police to save himself. He had summoned the end of his life as he knew it. The lead officer moved first. Her steps were measured, controlled, the kind that left no room for negotiation. 2 officers flanked her as they closed the distance between themselves and Derek Holloway, who now stood rigid near the entrance, eyes darting wildly as if searching for an escape route that no longer existed. "Sir," she said evenly, "place your hands behind your back." Derek laughed once, a sharp, panicked sound that didn't match the situation. "This is insane," he blurted. "I didn't know who he was. Nobody told me. I was just trying to protect people." No one responded. The cuffs closed around his wrists with a clean metallic click. That sound carried. It cut through the store louder than any shout Derek had made earlier. Conversation stopped completely. Even the refrigerators seemed to hum more quietly, as if the space itself had shifted into witness mode. Derek's posture collapsed. His shoulders slumped forward, confidence draining out of him in real time. His breathing became shallow and uneven. He tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. "Come on, this doesn't need to go this far," he said. "I've got a job, a family. This will ruin me." The officer guiding him toward the door didn't slow. "Sir, you're being detained for disorderly conduct, making a false emergency report, and verbal assault," she said clearly, ensuring every word was recorded. "You'll have the opportunity to explain yourself later." Tears appeared suddenly, streaking down Derek's flushed face. He looked around the store at the shoppers, the staff, the phone still recording, searching for sympathy. He found none. Lena stared down at her register, lips pressed together. Evan stood motionless, stunned. The woman who had spoken up earlier turned away, shaking her head slowly. Derek's feet dragged as he was escorted through the automatic doors. Outside, the parking lot felt exposed, unforgiving. Shoppers paused mid-step, carts abandoned, as Derek was guided toward the nearest patrol car. Someone's phone camera caught the moment his knees buckled slightly before he was steadied and placed inside the back seat. The door closed, final. Inside the store, silence lingered. Then Marcus moved. He exhaled slowly, the tension finally leaving his shoulders. He turned first to Evan. "I'm sorry this happened here," he said. "Your team handled it as well as they could." Evan nodded, swallowing hard. I had no idea." Marcus offered a faint smile. "Most people don't." He thanked Lena next, told her she'd done nothing wrong. That her calm mattered, she nodded, eyes glassy, finally allowing herself to breathe. Marcus then addressed the officers briefly, issuing quiet instructions, confirming reports, ensuring witness statements would be taken. It was efficient. Clinical, familiar. When it was done, he picked up his groceries from the belt. Tomatoes, rice, milk, chicken, just groceries. The crowd slowly dispersed, murmurs replacing silence as people processed what they had just witnessed. Phones were lowered, messages were already being typed, videos already uploading. Marcus exited the store without ceremony. Behind him, a life lay in ruins. Ahead of him, dinner still needed to be cooked. The fallout didn't wait for morning. By the time Derek Halloway was processed at the local station, videos from Maple Grove Market were already circulating online. Multiple angles, clear audio. His face, his voice, his certainty, all preserved in high definition. The moment of the salute, the handcuffs, the realization. By midnight, the clips had crossed state lines. By sunrise, they were everywhere. Local news stations ran the footage on a loop, carefully blurring nothing. Headlines used phrases like "public meltdown," "false police call backfires," and "instant accountability." Comment sections exploded. People recognized Derek, former coworkers, neighbors, old acquaintances who hadn't spoken to him in years. Derek spent the night in a holding cell, replaying it all in his head. He barely slept. The next morning, his phone was returned to him along with his belt and shoelaces. It buzzed nonstop, missed calls, voicemails, messages he didn't have the courage to open. One email stood out. It was from his employer, a brief statement. Professional, cold, effective immediately, Derek Halloway was being terminated. No severance, no review period, no opportunity to respond. The company cited conduct inconsistent with organizational values and public trust. 12 years gone in 4 sentences. Before noon, a formal charge was filed for making a false emergency report. Additional charges followed shortly after: harassment, disorderly conduct. Prosecutors cited overwhelming evidence and multiple witnesses. There would be no quiet resolution. Derek's attorney suggested damage control, apologies, counseling, public statements, but the internet had already decided. By the afternoon, someone had posted Derek's mugshot next to a freeze frame of his smug expression from the store. The contrast did the rest. Memes spread faster than facts ever could. That evening, Derek returned to a house that no longer felt like his. His wife listened in silence as he tried to explain, tried to minimize, tried to reframe. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She asked one question. "Is that really how you talk to people?" Derek didn't answer. 2 days later, she packed a bag and went to stay with her sister. Marcus Cole, meanwhile, declined interview requests. He issued a single written statement through his office, thanking the bystanders who spoke up and reminding the public that dignity isn't determined by appearance. He returned to work the next morning like nothing had happened. That contrast said everything. Derek had believed authority was something you could borrow. He was wrong, and the price of that mistake was still being calculated. The court date arrived faster than Derek Holloway ever expected. What he had assumed would drag on for months collapsed into a matter of weeks. The case didn't need time, it had clarity. Multiple video angles captured everything: the first insult, the escalation, the phone call to emergency services, and the moment reality turned against him. There was no ambiguity to argue away. The recorded 911 call was played during pretrial review. Hearing his own voice echo through a quiet room made Derek physically flinch. The certainty, the tone, the confidence that the system would respond exactly how he wanted. Each word now sounded foreign, like it had been spoken by someone else, someone reckless, cruel, and unaware of consequence. His attorney didn't sugarcoat it. "There's no alternate narrative here," she told him. "A plea is the only move left," Derek agreed. On the morning of the hearing, he sat alone on a hard wooden bench outside the courtroom. His suit no longer fit the way it used to. He'd lost weight without trying. His hands shook slightly, a constant reminder that his body understood something his mind still resisted. This was real, and it wasn't reversible. Inside, the courtroom was quiet, no drama. No spectacle, the prosecutor spoke plainly, almost clinically. A false emergency report that diverted police resources. A public verbal assault rooted in discriminatory intent. Escalation confirmed by witnesses. Digital evidence corroborated every claim. Each sentence landed cleanly. When it was Derek's turn to speak, he stood slowly. He apologized. The words were there, technically correct, carefully assembled. He said he'd acted out of fear. Out of concern, out of misunderstanding. He said he never intended harm. No one interrupted him. No one leaned forward. The judge listened, expression unreadable, then delivered the sentence. Mandatory bias counseling. Community service hours assigned under supervision. Financial penalties for misuse of emergency services. A suspended sentence contingent on full compliance. Legally, it was restrained. Socially, it was absolute. Outside the courthouse, there were no reporters waiting. No protesters, no vindication, just empty steps and passing strangers who didn't know his name or worse, did and didn't care. The silence followed him home. Job applications disappeared into automated systems without response. Former colleagues stopped replying altogether. Even casual places, the gym, the cafe, the hardware store, began to feel hostile, not openly, but unmistakably. Conversations shortened, eye contact vanished. Derek had become a reference point, a lesson. Marcus Cole never attended the hearing. He didn't need to. The process had never been about punishment for him. It had been about accountability, something Derek had demanded loudly that day in the store, never imagining it would turn inward. The distance between who Derek believed he was and who the world now saw him as could not be crossed. And that gap was where the rest of his life would unfold. Life didn't explode for Derek Holloway after the sentencing. It collapsed quietly. Weeks passed, then months. The world moved on, but Derek stayed suspended in the aftermath of a single afternoon. The viral clips stopped trending, replaced by newer outrages, newer villains. That should have felt like relief. It didn't, because while the internet forgot, reality didn't. Derek learned that consequences don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes they arrive as unanswered emails, as invitations that never come, as the subtle shift in tone when someone recognizes your face and decides to end the conversation early. He tried rebuilding. He attended the mandated counseling sessions, sitting in a circle with others who also insisted they weren't that kind of person. He completed his community service under supervision, picking up litter along roads he used to drive without noticing. He followed every rule, met every requirement. Compliance didn't bring redemption. It only brought closure for everyone else. His marriage never recovered. The separation became permanent. Mutual friends chose distance over discomfort. Even family gatherings grew strained, conversations careful and hollow. Derek had believed reputation was permanent. He learned too late that it's conditional. Meanwhile, Marcus Cole returned to his routine. He never referenced the incident publicly again. No interviews, no victory laps. To him, the outcome had never been personal. It had been procedural, necessary, finite. He continued his work, continued mentoring younger officers, continued living quietly, intentionally, without the need to remind anyone who he was. That difference mattered, because what Derek never understood, not in the store, not in the courtroom, not even afterward, was that real authority doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't require permission to exist. It simply is. The shoppers who spoke up that day went back to their lives, carrying something subtle but important with them, proof that intervention matters. That silence isn't neutral. That standing up for a stranger doesn't require knowing who they are, only knowing what's right. And Derek Holloway, he became a story people referenced without saying his name, a cautionary tale. An example used in conversations about assumptions, privilege, and the cost of unchecked certainty. all because of a choice he made in under 15 minutes. Hatred had promised him control. It delivered isolation. So here's the real question, not for Derek, but for everyone else. When you witness injustice, when you see someone being targeted for simply existing, what will you do? Will you assume someone else will step in? Will you look away to protect your comfort, or will you speak up even when it's inconvenient? Because moments like this don't announce themselves as life-changing. They just ask you to choose, and that choice is always watching.